This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. It's a Theory Thursday, and I love music theory. I love fretboard theory. I'm so delighted to bring this lesson series to you. In this lesson, we're going to look at the major pentatonic scale, how we play it on the fretboard and what it is. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. So the major pentatonic scale, it's a pentatonic scale. It has 5 notes. That's all there is to it. It's got the root, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6 of the major scale. So if we were to play the full-on 7-note major scale, we would also have steps 4 and step 7. But the pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic scale, removes steps 4 and step 7. That's one way to look at it. So this overlaps directly with playing the major scale. So there may be some familiarity here if you have actually played the major scale and worked through that system with me. What I'm giving you here is what I think is the very best scale system. It entirely overlaps with itself through the different types of scales and different modes that we end up playing on the guitar. So the major pentatonic, there's a couple ways to sort of understand it. One is within the 5 positional forms that cover the entire fretboard. But it can also be helpful to just break it down and look at the single octaves one at a time first and how those relate together. So I'm going to go over here to this side of the board where I have some single octave examples drawn up here on the board. So you've got option A. And I'm just going to demonstrate this in the key of G. So I've got a G there at the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and I can play form 1 right there. And it's got that root, the major 2nd, the major 3rd, the perfect 5th, the major 6th, and that octave of the root. Great sounding scale, and it directly overlaps with the major scale if you're familiar with that. So I've got that single octave pentatonic form there, and I can play that anywhere along the fretboard, cover all 12 keys just on that 6th string, meaning having that low root on the 6th string. I can also take this and transfer it to other string sets. So I played it there. If I want to transfer everything 1 string higher, I find the G note on the 5th string and I move all those notes 1 string higher. I could do it again. So I've got my middle finger on the G that is at the 5th fret of the 4th string, and I can do it again. Now, because there's a tuning difference between strings 2 and 3 versus all the other adjacent strings, we have to shift up higher when we get to the 2nd string. So I have to compensate for that missing sort of fret, so to speak. So I've got 2, 4, 1, 4, and then I'm going to shift up with my index finger 1 fret higher to catch that next string. So that's how we do that there. Then I could transfer all that to the next set of strings or string set, putting my index or middle finger on the G that's at the 12th fret of the 3rd string, and I can play it there. Again, when I get to that 2nd string, I need to go everything 1 fret higher, and I just continue 1 fret higher from there. So I stuck with the same fingering that I used down here, but I could also switch up and use my index, ring, index, pinky. And some people actually like to just reach and use index and ring, but I like to use my pinky. I've been playing lots of styles of guitar, well trained. I got that pinky in good shape, but I like to use it when I'm playing. So that's one option for playing the single octave form of the major scale. And we did complete forms there, complete octaves of the scale. We also have just pieces of it. So if I played the G at the 8th fret on that 2nd string, I can just play a piece of it there. Or if I go to the G on the top string, I can play just a piece of it there. I could also come lower if I did it descending first. So if I went back to where we were playing first and start with my pinky, so start on the higher root, and I bring that down, I've got a piece of it there, and I've got a piece of it on that low 6th string. So I've got pieces that I can also play out of that form. I've got an alternate form, so form B over here. So if I stick my pinky now on the G that's at fret 15 of that 6th string and play this alternate form, I get a G major pentatonic as well. So, and I can transfer that one to higher strings. So if I put my pinky on the G at the 10th fret of the 5th string, or if I put my pinky on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and I am compensating for how I'm doing things once I get to that second string. So I am doing that, and I just chose to continue fingering things in the position, but you can shift as well. So there it is, and I can continue and just do pieces of it. So I just had my ring finger on the G that's at the 12th fret of the 3rd string and played a piece of the scale there, and then I've got a piece of the scale if I put my pinky on that 8th fret of the 2nd string, and then I got that one note on that top string at the 15th fret. So I can do that with those, and of course I could come lower. So if I go back to where I originally played this, with my root on the low 6th string as written there, and do it in the opposite order where I start on that high root instead, and then walk that back, I get pieces of it. So I started with my index finger there on the G at the 5th fret. If I come to the G on the 5th string at the 10th fret, I have a piece of it there, and then I got that G. So those are the single octaves, and it can be really helpful to just work right up and down the fretboard playing the single octave versions of the scale on each of the strings. Each of the string sets, or each of the sets of strings that you can play it on. Particularly the entire octave, but also doing just the little pieces is great as well. Then what happens when we have our 5 positional forms is that we're connecting these 2 single octave forms together to create 5 positional forms. So if we look at number 1 here, if we start with option A, and I'm doing this in G, then I've got that single octave form. But when I get to my pinky in that higher root, I can switch to option B, and I can play the scale that way, and this keeps me in the same position, but I'm getting all the notes that are available. And then up on top, I've just got a piece of it there. So if I play the entire form, I'm starting with option A, switching to option B, option A, then back to B, then A, and I've got a form right here. Now, before we look at how the 5 forms stack up next to each other along the fretboard, which happens diagonally here, let's just look at how we can take, just like we were doing with the single octave forms and moving everything 1 string higher, we can take and move everything 1 string higher with the entire positional forms as well. So form 1, we've got that lowest root with option A on that low 6th string. Now we move everything a string higher, and our root is now on the 5th string. And I'm going to play this one in G again, so I'm at the 10th fret of the 5th string, and I've got, which is so slick, and I can move everything 1 fret higher again. Got my middle finger at the 5th fret on the 4th string, and I've got the major pentatonic form there. Take everything 1 fret higher, and I've got my G that is at the 12th fret on that 3rd string. I also can alternatively start at the 15th fret, starting with option B and then doing option A. So if I start at the 15th fret, get on that G note, I had F sharp, I had to slide into it there. So you got the G note at the 15th fret, I can play form number 4. And then I can take everything 1 string higher again. This time I'll put my pinky at the 10th fret and start with option B again. And I've got just like that, and we'd start over again. So how do these sit next to each other along the fretboard? Well, we've got 1, 3, 5, 2, 4. So option 1 or scale number 1, then the 3, then the 5. So we skip over each one, and then we go to 2 and 4, and then we come back to scale form 1. So let's look at it. So if we start there again on G with option 1, then where our pinky was on that 4th string, we're going to put our middle finger for form 3, and we're going to play form 3. Just like that. And then where our pinky hit that G on the 2nd string, we're going to put our middle finger there up on the 2nd string, which is at the 8th fret. We've got a G. And we can play our next form from that, starting with that partial version of option A, or from there we can also, reach down to where we're at the 10th fret with our pinky, and we can play form 5 here. just like that. And then where our pinky was, we're going to go to form 2 with our middle finger, and we can play that one there at the 10th fret on that 5th string with the root. Then where our our pinky hit at the 12th fret, we can now put our index finger right there on that one, or down with our pinky on the 15th fret on the 6th string, and we can play that form. From there, we come back to form number 1 with our middle finger at the 15th fret. And it's as slick as that, and we can just keep continuing. Now, it can be great as you're working these to just work one at a time, work them in all the positions and all the keys. As you're switching from one to the next, seeing where those octaves are at can be really helpful. You'll notice this is option A, going up to the next octave of option A, going up to the next octave of option A, and then we come back over here and do option A to option A again, just moving up octaves. So you can get used to just practicing moving octaves. It's also kind of cool because if you practice this form along one string, you have to just skip over a fret instead of going to the next string. So I do my 2-4, skip over a fret and do my 1-4, skip over a fret and do my 1-4. You can start seeing how to get inside of these as you do that. You might see how it progresses right along the fretboard in that particular way. So you can start to find ways to shift from one to the next. You can also look at how the positions just sit next to each other and practice going back and forth. Those kinds of things, just switching from one form to the next. So those are some ways to start getting inside of moving from one form to the next. But really, you just want to learn these forms if you can see them and just start getting familiar with it. So that's the major pentatonic scale on the guitar, which is super cool. In the next Theory Thursday lesson, we'll look at the minor pentatonic scale. These get used for improvisation all the time. So this one is especially great with the pop sort of sound, folk sound, hymn sound, that sort of thing. And there is a lesson series, comes out on Saturdays, where we're working on improvising, jamming in the pop, rock, and blues styles. Many lessons have been released that way. There's jam-along tracks applying how to use the major pentatonics and the minor pentatonics. So that's a great place to go if you want to start applying it to actually improvising. So great stuff. There's over 1,000 videos on the channel. Lots of great ways to get help. There's the method books. There is a theory and technique book that'll come out. The new edition has so much great stuff just loaded. So lots of ways to get help with playing the guitar. Keep having fun, take care, and we'll see you again.
If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.